And there's also kind of, I felt, a bit of a gambling aspect to it, you know, because ultimately you can plan as much as you can, and you know, but ultimately there's kind of a roll of the dice, like let's hope this works kind of a thing, and I could see how that could get quite addictive.
¿Te gusta ser directo?
Como una flecha, sin rodeos.
¿Por qué estás aquí, Sonny?
Okay, so first of all, Mr. Kosinski, I am a film critic, but most importantly, I am a massive Formula One fan. And as you can see, a Lewis Hamilton supporter. So to me, this was like Christmas came early. So congratulations. And to start this conversation, I was amazed by so many things in the movie. But one thing that really stunned me was how seamlessly you managed to mix reality and fiction. You know, that Checo Perez crash in Mexico comes to mind. I witnessed that with my own two eyes. And yet I believe the apex cars were there. It's unlike anything I've seen before, and I'm guessing it's unlike anything you've done before. So I'd love to know, what were the main challenges of achieving these, and how special was it to see it come alive in the big screen?
Yeah, well, I mean, there were a lot of challenges. The first thing was we had to develop a whole new camera system to shoot this movie, because we took what we had from Top Gun Maverick and we miniaturized it. We made it much smaller, much lighter, so that it could be mounted on a race car and not slow it down. So when you see Brad and Damson driving in this movie, they have 4 cameras mounted around them on a real race car, on an F1 track, on race weekend. We also used some of the tricks we learned in Top Gun to magically put the Apex car into races, like the one you're talking about. And then also when we were shooting Brad and Damson, to put them in a field of F1 cars around them. So there's a scene at Silverstone where Brad races Checo. Where we use that technology. So there's a lot of tricks, but you know, from the audience point of view, it should feel seamless. It should just feel like that Sonny Hayes and Joshua Pierce are the 11th team on the grid, and they're racing along everyone else. So
I don't know what your stance is on method acting, and I don't need to, but I think that traveling with the F1 circus has to come pretty close. So, you know, ever since I heard that you were going to be shooting in actual Grand Prix, I was like, how is that possible? And I want to know, was it daunting to work alongside these F1 professionals? And also, what was the thing that impressed you the most after diving headfirst into this world in a way that not many people can?
So it was daunting. I'll answer the first bit, you can answer the second. Thank you. It was daunting because I felt that we were guests of F1. They were still having their circuit and trying to win actual races while we were filming. So it was important for me that I didn't distract or, you know, cause any interference in anything. So I tried to lay low and do my job really well and not interfere with anybody. And I would just be mortified if I distracted them or caused any problems. So that was important to me when we were filming.
Of course.
Yeah, I mean, traveling with that circus was amazing, but yeah, same. It started off as like this nervous thing where you didn't want to step on anyone's toes. And yeah, I imagine there was a scene where we had a press conference, and I remember, you know, the guys had just finished doing 75 laps and they're coming out and they're really talking to the media.
Oh, yes.
But me and Brad are coming out doing a scene and smiling because we had a good race.
Like pretending, yes.
And like just seeing the guys sweating like crazy, and in my head I was like, man, I should be sweating more.
Oh, no.
I just did 75 laps. But the greatness of the movie is, you know, throughout the journey of us shooting over the 2-year period, you just saw everyone in the world of F1, including the fans, become more and more excited about what we were making.
And also, as an F1 fan, I couldn't help but notice, you know, some of the sequences really reminded me of actual things that happen in Formula One, like the big race in Abu Dhabi. I thought of, again, Checo Perez going P20 to P1, Lewis's comeback drive in Silverstone. And I'd also love to know how much research went into that and how much inspiration did you pull from historic F1 races?
A lot of research. We kind of embedded ourselves in the F1 world. Our screenwriter, Aaron Kruger, was in the Mercedes garage for several races on the headphones, listening to all the communication. Obviously, having Lewis as a producer, he has a great knowledge of film, of F1 history, of situations that he's been in. Will Buxton was a consultant on the movie. He has an incredible a sense of F1 history as well. You know, we see him in the movie as well. So we, you know, and I talked to all the drivers, all the team principals, and we used all that collective knowledge to kind of create this story in this world.
I mean, Joshua, we see him go through the entire hero's journey in this film, but there was one particular scene that really floored me. That's when you're in the simulator, you know, reliving this race, sort of what could have been. And your face just goes through so many emotions, you know, like giddiness, but then like regret and like this learning. And I just wanted to know, how was it getting into this mindset of an athlete? And also if you took any inspiration from any F1 drivers, past or present.
Well, firstly, I have to tip my hat to Brad for coming up with that scene. I mean, he was the one who was like, man, it would be great if we saw Josh calculating and figuring something out so that he could learn and be a better driver. So, you know, I love that scene also. But the second part of your question is what did I learn?
Yeah, like getting into the athlete's mindset. And also if you took any inspiration from other drivers.
All of them. Every single one of them. Even throughout the 2 years of filming, we watched so many of the drivers, including the one we love, experience ups and downs and winning and losses and still coming out strong and not seeing any of it as a failure, but all a lesson. So that's the biggest thing I'm taking away from the drivers. And I'm able to apply that to every aspect of my life.
Going more into the narrative aspect, there's this very famous phrase that is, in Italy there are two religions, which is the Catholic Church and Ferrari.
Yes.
And I thought it was amazing how in the story you have all this talk of miracles and of Hail Marys and the religious experience. And you know, I think it's one of the first films that really captures this aspect of motorsport, the devotion that fans and drivers and mechanics and everyone has for it. And I'd love to know if this echoes your own feelings towards the sport.
I mean, I think it echoes my feelings towards filmmaking. I think working with Formula One, that felt like a commonality between us. The passion they have for racing is the same passion, you know, me and our crew have for filmmaking. And I think we felt like that's why the partnership worked so well, because we both saw that in each other. I definitely saw that passion from every person that I met, and you know, we wanted to infuse that into the film.
And you know, Kerry, I also always thought that being a doctor would be the most challenging role, like the medical jargon. Now I think it's an F1 technical director. Like, that must have been insane, especially if you are not like a diehard fan before that. So I wanted to ask you, what were the challenges of taking on this role, but also what was the biggest reward?
The challenges was trying to do it very naturally, like a real strategy or technical director or strategist, but also in a way that would explain it to people who didn't know anything about F1. That was sort of like storytelling in a way that didn't make it complicated. But I had a lot of help from Ruth Boscombe and Bernie Collins. So they helped me with a lot of it to understand it, because I didn't know anything about F1. And what was the second part of the question?
What was the biggest reward?
The biggest reward was the fun that I had doing it, was the fun that we had making the movie. And I had this feeling from Joseph that nothing I did was ever wrong. Like, nothing was ever wrong. Even a mistake wasn't even, like, it wasn't even seen as a mistake. There was a freedom with everything, and he was trying to capture like a playfulness and a spontaneity. So we were allowed, like, have a lot of fun in between takes and stuff. He kind of encouraged us to have fun. So that was insane. I'd never experienced that before.
I also think that, to me, sports have always been inherently cinematic. I mean, some of the best and the worst experiences in my life are connected to sports. My own father tells me, like, some of the key moments of his life, he always prefaces with, my favorite team was happening. This was happening. And to me, sports and film can be the perfect marriage if they're in the perfect hands. And in this case, there were your hands. But yeah, I'd like to know, what was it about Formula One specifically that made you want to immortalize it for the big screen?
I mean, some things are obvious, just the speed, the glamour, the beautiful cars, the energy of the races. But what I thought was really interesting about this sport is your teammate can often be your biggest rival. And I just can't think of another sport that is structured like that. So I thought that was incredibly valuable for creating a drama and exploring this unique partnership, and what it's like when you have two drivers on a team that are fighting each other, but the power that comes from when a whole team pulls together and works together and what's possible. And you know, in this film, Apex is just trying to win one race. Yeah. They're not trying to win the championship. They just want to win one. And in the world of Formula One, as you know, beating Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes, McLaren, if you're at the bottom of the pack, that almost seems impossible.
And I mean, I hope I'm not putting you in the spot too much, but I really have to ask, if you were to direct an F1 biopic, which driver or team would you want it to be focused on?
Wow, that's tough. There's so many incredible stories. I mean, one of my favorite documentaries about Formula One is the story of Ayrton Senna. Yeah. I just think that's an incredible film. So to try to turn that into a narrative film would be an amazing challenge.
And I mean, there's another scene that's one of my favorites where Kate says that she really was convinced to get into the sport because of the thrill of that fighting to the death for 1,000th of a second. Yeah. And I was like, that nails it. Like, yeah, that's what draws us to Formula One as a sport, as a lifestyle. And now after making this movie, I imagine you have a privileged understanding of the sport. And I wanted to ask you, what do you think makes F1 amazing and worthy of being immortalized for cinema?
What makes it amazing? I suppose speed and sound are very kind of almost tribal in a way, like as humans we're drawn to those things. There's an energy with sound and speed that's quite addictive, and it's very innovative. Sort of a new sport, like a modern sport, or the new technology that we have. The team aspect sort of unites a lot of people together, and it's sort of every dog can have his day. Like, you can be losing, but you can win because it's a long season. And there's also I felt, a bit of a gambling aspect to it, because ultimately you can plan as much as you can, and but ultimately there's kind of a roll of the dice, let's hope this works kind of a thing. And I could see how that could get quite addictive, this gambling aspect to it.
The most amazing thing for me about the world of Formula One is just how it brings so many people from all around the world together. Yes. That's just, our film is a testament to that. You see so many characters from different walks of life who all have one goal of, making this car the greatest car that it could be on that track. So that's the best thing for me.
And also you went all around the world with the Formula One circus. We saw Silverstone, we see the Hungaroring, yes. We see Mexico. Yes. And I'd love to know, what did you notice that was different about the fans everywhere in the world, and how was it like bringing them into the scenes? Because I also remember this last Grand Prix that they were like, we need your help for this scene with Brad. Yeah. How was that experience?
I mean, every circuit has its own personality, and that's what's amazing about Formula One. It's different every single weekend. So, Silverstone is very different from Las Vegas, and it's very different from Abu Dhabi. Yeah. But in terms of the fans, it's hard to beat Mexico City. The energy of the crowd in the stadium, there was nothing else like it. I'm so glad we were able to get that in the film.
We're also very glad you got that, because It was so special to watch it in the big screen. And that brings me to my final question. I think, obviously, that watching it in an IMAX screen is the way to go. Yes. But I'd like to know, why would you tell the fans to go watch it in the biggest screen possible?
Well, if you happen to see this film in IMAX, I did something different on this film, where rather than do sections in IMAX format, almost the entire film is in IMAX format. So you're going to get more picture in IMAX than you are going to get in other formats, which in this film actually makes a difference, because you're going to see Brad and Damson's hands on the wheel, and you're going to even feel more that you're in the car with him. So if you get a chance to see it in IMAX, I recommend that. But if you can see it in Dolby Atmos, if you can see it in laser projection, if you can see it in ScreenX, 40X, there's all these formats we've done that are all have their own kind of unique advantage. So yeah, I recommend seeing it in all of them.
Of course, cinema is always special, and even more so when it's for a film like this. So thank you so much, Mr. Kosinski, and congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your time, and congratulations once more.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.